Victor Wembanyama is the most anticipated NBA draft prospect since LeBron James in 2003, and honestly, he might be the best prospect of all time. He's a staggering 7 foot 5 inches in shoes and has a guard skill set, bringing the ball up the floor and being able to hit threes, while also being able to attack the rim and dunk on anyone. He also can be the NBA's best rim protector from day one, with elite instincts and a crazy wingspan. Some analysts are going as far as saying he's going to be an all-star level player in his first season in the NBA. With all of that being said, there's obviously unheralded interest in him, and a ton of anxious anticipation of this year's NBA draft lottery. With the NBA evening the odds in recent years, there are at least 8 teams that have between a 14 and 6% chance of landing the number 1 pick. So what should Victor be hoping for? Today I'm going to try to answer that question. I'll be ranking the top 5 teams for Victor Wembanyama based on the team's current roster, their coaching and developmental staff, and their ability to contend as quickly as possible. In order to answer this question, let's only pull 5 out of the 8 teams with the highest odds. That gives us a pool of the Rockets, Spurs, Pistons, Hornets, Magic, Thunder, Pacers, and Chicago Bulls. Before we get into the top 5, if you enjoy my content and watched a few videos of mine, think about subscribing. 96% of my viewers are actually not subscribed, so if you watch me before and enjoy the content, drop a sub and comment down below. It really helps the channel. Before we get into the 5th team, there are 3 teams that didn't quite crack the top 5. The Bulls were ranked 8th for me. The team has been filled with problems all season long, on top of their odds being pretty low and their roster being kind of old. The Pistons came up 7th for me because of their current cluster of big men on the team. Honestly, it feels as if they'd be better off adding a top-tier wing to their current core of players. And finally, the Rockets finished just outside the top 5 for me because they seem to be pretty poorly run. The team has been extremely ISO heavy and ball hoggy all year, and it's likely the worst basketball team to watch in all of the NBA. However, Victor isn't necessarily a bad fit on any team, and could turn the Bulls into an immediate playoff team, as well as the Rockets if they really do get Harden back. With all that being said, let's get into the top 5. My 5th best fit for Victor Wembanyama is the Indiana Pacers. They have one of the league's best passers in Tyrese Halliburton, who's already an all-star this season. They could have Victor play the 4 alongside Miles Turner at the 5, giving them a duo of rim protectors. He's agile enough to guard on the perimeter and play the 4 if need be. They also have another top-level future talent, Bennedict Mathurin, who's shown a lot of scoring upside as a rookie wing. He's been the 2nd best rookie from last year's draft class. They could run out a starting lineup of Halliburton, Hield, Mathurin, Wembanyama, and Miles Turner next season, which could make them a top 4 to 6 team in the Eastern Conference. They were a playoff-level team before Halliburton's injury this season, and adding Victor to that could make them a contender in year 1. They won't have super high odds and could be a long shot to get this top pick. My 4th best fit for Victor Wembanyama is the Charlotte Hornets. Just imagining a LaMelo Ball and Victor pick and roll makes me drool a little and would generate highlights every single night. The team has shown some nice upside as of late, having a 5-game win streak before LaMelo's injury. They would also add Victor to Mark Williams, who they drafted at center last year and has been very promising recently. Just like with the Pacers, the Hornets would have an elite shot-blocking duo to build around. As shady and maybe unethical as it may be, it also feels kinda likely that Miles Bridges will be back at some point, and he was a 20-point per game scorer for them. They have 3 20-point per game scorers this season, and could run out a starting lineup of LaMelo, Rozier, Bridges, Victor, and Mark Williams next year, with players like Kelly Oubre and Gordon Hayward coming off the bench. The court would be stocked full of lob threats to go alongside with LaMelo. Victor would likely be the team's best player right away, and we'd finally get to see LaMelo in the playoffs, which would be a win for everybody who loves basketball. The 3rd best fit for Victor, in my opinion, is the Orlando Magic. The team has been competitive in almost all of their games this season, despite being out of the play-in race for most of it. They have this year's Rookie of the Year in Paolo Banchero, who has been a 20-point per game scorer as a rookie, which is pretty uncommon. They also have Franz Wagner, who has really blossomed in his 2nd season, giving the Magic one of the league's best forward duos with Wagner and Banchero. They have an interesting assortment of guards, with Markelle Fultz, who has turned into a really good player after being considered a bust for most of his young career. They also have Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, who can be quality rotational guards as well. They can run out a starting lineup of Markelle Fultz, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Jonathan Isaac, and Victor Wembanyama. They'd have 3 all-star caliber players to build around going forward, and would run out an absolutely elite defensive unit in the starting 5. They'd also have Wendell Carter, Bol, Suggs, and Anthony off the bench, and be absolutely stacked with both potential and upside. The second best fit for Victor Wembanyama is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're the only team I've mentioned so far with a bona fide superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The biggest thing this team is needing is a center, and Victor really is the perfect last piece to the Thunder's rebuild. Shai is already a 30-point per game scorer for the Thunder, and Victor would give them an amazing top 2. They also have Josh Giddey and Jalen Williams, who both are really great players already. Then on top of that, they have last year's number 2 overall pick Chet Holmgren, who looked really good in last year's Summer League before going down with an injury that sidelined him for his entire rookie year. Their starting lineup of SGA, Giddey, Williams, Chet, and Victor would make them really young, but also extremely talented in a group that could grow and improve together. They'd be great at spacing the floor and be long, versatile defenders as well. The team would be a nearly guaranteed playoff team in the good Western Conference next season. The duo of Chet and Victor would have some obvious weight and durability concerns, but if they both pan out to be what they're expected to, this team would be absolutely phenomenal. Finally, the number 1 fit for Victor Wembanyama is the San Antonio Spurs. They have one of the best coaches in league history in Greg Popovich. They have a history of all-time big men with Tim Duncan and David Robinson, as well as great international players in Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. They have a great developmental staff that is responsible for Kawhi Leonard and DeJounte Murray, neither of whom were expected to be nearly as great as they've turned out to be. They have some really nice young players as well in Jeremy Sohan, Keldon Johnson, and Devin Vassell, who all have shown strong flashes this year. The team could run out a starting 5 of Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and Victor. They also will have plenty of cap space if they wanted to try to add a higher-end point guard than Jones. The team isn't as ready to jump into contention as the others I've mentioned, but everything else I've talked about with them makes them the perfect storm for Victor to develop into an all-time great. Victor Wembanyama is one of, if not the best prospects in the history of the NBA draft. He's a 7'5" stud who can play any position both offensively and defensively. He'll be one of the league's best rim protectors as a rookie and has a legitimate chance to make the All-Star game in year 1. There are 8 teams with a 6% or greater chance at landing the number 1 overall pick. However, some are better fits than others. For me, the Spurs are the best landing spot, with the Thunder, Magic, Hornets, and Pacers filling out the rest of the top 5 best fits from the 8 teams. Obviously, this is all subjective, but let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. I'm Herm. Have a good one.